The morning of July 15th, 1897, arrives like any other on the Broken Arrow Ranch. Coffee steam rises from tin cups. Horses shift in the corral, hooves scraping packed earth. 3 cowboys prepare for another day chasing strays across drought-cracked pasture. No one expects the world to change at 6:23 a.m. The first sign comes as sound, a low whistle cutting through still air, different from wind through mesquite. Foreman Daniel Carpenter looks up from his coffee, squinting at empty sky. The noise fades, returns, grows closer. Then comes the shadow. It passes over the camp like a cloud, but there are no clouds. The shadow moves too fast, too purposeful. It crosses the chuck wagon, the fire pit, the corral where 40 head of cattle cluster against the morning chill. The shadow has edges, sharp, defined, unmistakably the silhouette of wings. When the calf screams, Carpenter's cup hits the dirt. The sound splits the morning wide open, not the usual bellow of distress, but something higher, more desperate, a sound that doesn't belong to Earth. West Texas in the summer of 1897 tests every living thing. The drought has lasted 14 months. Creek beds crack like broken pottery. Grass turns to dust under cattle hooves. Wells that once ran clear now yield only rust-colored water that tastes of iron and defeat. The Broken Arrow Ranch sprawls across 12,000 acres of Llano County, owned by cattle baron James Morrison. Morrison built his empire on good water and better luck, but both are running short. Rustlers work the borderlands, taking what they please from weakened herds. Summer storms promise relief, but deliver only lightning and empty threats. Daniel Carpenter has ramrodded the Broken Arrow for 8 years. He knows cattle, knows weather, knows the particular weight of a sky that holds rain but won't release it. What he doesn't know, as he saddles his horse on the morning of July 15th, is that he's about to witness something that will redefine the boundaries of the possible. The camp sits in a natural depression surrounded by mesquite and prickly pear. A stone fire ring anchors the space. Canvas stretched between wagon wheels provides the only shade. 3 men share the morning routine: Carpenter, his segundo Tom Whitman, and a young hand named Billy Ochoa, who still flinches when coyotes howl after dark. Whitman checks his Winchester, slides it into the saddle scabbard. Ochoa tends the fire, banking coals for the evening meal. Carpenter studies the horizon through field glasses, counting cattle, checking for signs of predators or thieves. The herd grazes a quarter-mile east, near the dried remains of Willow Creek. 42 head of longhorns, mostly cows with spring calves. The animals cluster together, seeking comfort in numbers as wild things do when the world grows uncertain. "Storm coming," Whitman says, nodding toward the eastern horizon. Carpenter follows his gaze. Dark clouds build in the distance, towering thunderheads that promise rain and deliver disappointment. He's watched a dozen such formations dissolve into nothing over the past month. "Maybe," he replies, "maybe not." The air carries the metallic taste of lightning still hours away. Static electricity raises the hair on Carpenter's arms. The cattle feel it too. They shift and low, ears twitching at sounds only they can hear. At 6:15, Whitman finishes saddling his bay mare. The horse dances sideways, nervous energy rippling through muscle and hide. Animals know things, Carpenter has learned. They feel changes in air pressure, magnetic fields, the subtle vibrations that precede earthquakes and storms. This morning, everything feels wrong. The cattle bunch tighter than usual. Hawks circle high overhead, riding thermals that shouldn't exist in still air. Even the camp dog, a yellow cur named Buster, paces the perimeter with hackles raised. Ochoa pours the last of the coffee. "You hear that?" Carpenter pauses, cup halfway to his lips. "Hear what?" "Whistling, like wind, but there ain't no wind," Whitman finishes. The 3 men stand motionless, listening. The sound comes again, a high, keening note that seems to originate from everywhere and nowhere. It starts soft, builds in intensity, then fades to silence. "Bird," Carpenter says, but even he doesn't believe it. "What kind of bird makes that sound?" Ochoa asks. No one answers because no one knows. At 6:20, the shadow appears. It starts as movement in peripheral vision, something large passing overhead. Carpenter looks up expecting to see a cloud, a hawk, perhaps a buzzard riding the morning thermals. Instead, he sees wings. The creature moves with purpose, each wing beat deliberate and controlled. Its shadow races across the ground, covering the camp, the corral, the scattered cattle. For 3 seconds, the world dims. Jesus, Whitman whispers. The wingspan stretches wider than the corral gate, 20 feet, maybe 25. Feathers catch the early light, dark as storm clouds, but shot through with an odd luminescence that makes them appear almost metallic. The head, small relative to the body, turns from side to side as if scanning the ground below. The creature completes one pass over the herd and wheels around for another. "What in hell?" Ochoa starts. The calf's scream cuts him off. Every head turns toward the sound. A young heifer, maybe 6 months old, stands apart from the herd near a cluster of prickly pear. The animal bellows in terror, eyes rolled white, hooves scrambling for purchase on loose dirt. Then the calf rises, not jumps, rises. Straight up, legs dangling, lifted by something unseen from above. The creature's talons, thick as railroad spikes, sink deep into the calf's back. Wings spread wide, catching air, finding lift. The heifer weighs perhaps 200 pounds. No bird should be able to carry such weight, yet the creature climbs steadily, powerfully, bearing its burden toward the storm clouds gathering in the east. Carpenter reaches for his rifle, then stops. The creature is already too high, too far. A bullet wouldn't reach it, and even if it did, the calf would fall to its death. The 3 men can only watch as predator and prey disappear into the distance. The calf's cries fade gradually, swallowed by wind and space. The creature becomes a dark speck against gray clouds, then vanishes entirely. Silence returns to the camp, heavier than before. "Did you see?" Ochoa begins, then trails off. "We all saw," Carpenter says. But seeing doesn't equal understanding. They've witnessed something that shouldn't exist, something that challenges every assumption about the natural world. A bird large enough to carry off a full-grown calf. A creature from legend made flesh. Whitman picks up his rifle, checks the action. "We going after it?" Carpenter considers. The storm approaches from the east. By the time they saddle up and reach the area where the creature disappeared, rain will wash away any sign of its passage. And what would they do if they found it? 3 cowboys against something out of nightmare? "We tell Morrison," he decides. "Let him figure out what comes next." The decision sits poorly with all of them. Cowboys are men of action, not committee. But this morning has moved beyond the realm of simple action. This morning requires witnesses, documentation, proof. Because who would believe such a thing without proof? The remaining cattle cluster together, lowing nervously. They sense the absence of the taken calf, smell the fear scent lingering in the air. Buster whines and presses close to Carpenter's legs. "Pack up camp," Carpenter orders. "We're heading back to the house." As they break camp, each man steals glances at the eastern horizon. The storm builds there, dark and massive, swallowing distance. Somewhere in those clouds, a creature they cannot name carries a burden it should not be able to lift. The ordinary world has cracked open. Through that crack, something ancient has emerged. The Broken Arrow ranch house sits on a low rise overlooking the Llano River. Built from native limestone, it squats against the landscape like something grown from the earth itself. James Morrison designed it for defense as much as comfort. Thick walls, narrow windows, clear fields of fire in every direction. Morrison built this place when Comanche still rode the plains. He's fought drought, rustlers, and market crashes. He's survived by trusting facts over feelings, evidence over emotion. The story his foreman tells tests that philosophy. Carpenter stands in Morrison's office, hat in hands, recounting the morning's events. Whitman and Ochoa flank him, adding details, confirming observations. Their voices remain steady, matter-of-fact, as if they're reporting stolen cattle or broken fence line. Morrison listens without interruption. His weathered face betrays nothing. 58 years old, gray-bearded, he's heard every tall tale the frontier can produce. Cowboys see. Things in heat shimmer that aren't there. Exhaustion creates miracles. Fear births monsters. But 3 men telling the same impossible story? That carries weight. 20-foot wingspan, Morrison repeats when they finish. At least, Carpenter confirms, maybe 25. Talons like spikes, thick as my thumb, longer, and it flew off carrying a 200-pound calf. Yes, sir. Morrison walks to his window, studies the eastern horizon where storm clouds continue to build. Lightning flickers within them, too distant for thunder. "You know what you're telling me?" he asks. "Yes, sir. We know how it sounds." Morrison has read the old stories. Every rancher in Texas has. Tales passed down from Indians, from Spanish explorers, from the earliest settlers. Stories of giant birds that could carry off deer, antelope, even children. The Comanche called them thunder spirits, creatures that lived in storm clouds and descended to hunt when lightning walked the earth. Most men dismiss such stories as superstition. Morrison is not most men. "Thunderbird," he says quietly. The word hangs in the air like smoke. Carpenter nods. "My grandfather saw one," Morrison continues. "Oklahoma Territory, 1845, said it had eyes like yellow lanterns and a voice that shook the ground. Tribal elders told him the birds were sacred, that killing one brought 7 years of drought." He turns from the window. "Of course, my grandfather also claimed he once arm wrestled a grizzly bear, so make of that what you will." Despite everything, Carpenter almost smiles. Almost. "What do we do?" he asks. Morrison considers. A practical man faces practical choices. He can report the incident to authorities who will laugh him out of the county courthouse. He can stay silent and hope the creature moves on to other hunting grounds. Or he can document what happened and prepare for its return. "Billy," he says to Ochoa, "can you draw?" "Some, sir." "Draw what you saw, every detail you can remember. We'll need records if this thing comes back." Morrison walks to his desk, pulls out paper and pencil. "Tom, I want you to ride into Llano. Find someone with a camera. Pay them whatever they want to come out here." "Camera?" Whitman asks. "If this bird returns, we'll be ready. Pictures tell better stories than words." The men exchange glances. They came expecting doubt, dismissal, perhaps accusations of drinking on duty. Instead, their boss accepts their account and moves directly to action. "Dan," Morrison continues, "send word to the neighboring ranches. Ask if anyone's seen anything unusual. Lost livestock, strange birds, anything that doesn't fit the normal pattern." Carpenter nods. "Yes, sir." "And send someone to find Joseph Crow Feather." The name carries weight among local ranchers. Joseph Crow Feather is a Comanche elder who lives alone in a cabin near Packsaddle Mountain. Most whites consider him a relic, a harmless old man who trades carved trinkets for coffee and tobacco. Morrison knows better. Crow Feather remembers the old ways. More importantly, he remembers the old stories. "The Indian?" Ochoa asks. "The historian," Morrison corrects. "If anyone knows about these creatures, it'll be him." Storm wind rattles the windows. The approaching weather system has grown massive, covering half the eastern horizon. Lightning flickers within it like trapped fire. "One more thing," Morrison adds. "Nobody talks about this outside the ranch. Not until we understand what we're dealing with. Last thing we need is every fool with a rifle coming out here to hunt for glory." The men understand. Stories like this spread fast and grow in the telling. By the time word reached Austin or San Antonio, the creature would become a dragon, the calf would become a full-grown bull, and the broken arrow would be overrun with treasure hunters and journalists. "Dan, you and your boys stay close to the house for now. Keep the cattle in the near pastures where we can watch them." "Yes, sir." "And keep your rifles loaded." As the men file out, Morrison remains at his window, studying the storm. Somewhere in those clouds, a creature from legend stalks the modern world. A thunderbird, last remnant of a wilder age, hunting in the shadow of civilization. The drought has lasted 14 months. According to Comanche belief, killing a thunderbird brings 7 years of the same. Morrison wonders what taking one brings. By evening, word spreads across Llano County in the way that strange news travels, quietly, carefully, person to person. Morrison's request for information yields results within hours. 3 ranches report missing calves over the past month. The Rocking T lost 2 yearlings from a pasture near Devil's River. The Diamond Bar had a heifer vanish from high ground overlooking Pecan Creek. Each animal simply gone, no signs of struggle, no blood trail, no tracks leading away. The McKinney spread tells a different story. Robert McKinney runs cattle on rough country 30 miles east of the Broken Arrow. Irish immigrant, tough as rawhide, not given to flights of fancy. When he rides up to Morrison's house near sunset, his face carries the weight of a man who's seen too much. "Heard you had trouble with a big bird," McKinney says without preamble. Morrison pours whiskey, sets the bottle between them. "Might have. 3 days ago something hit my herd near Cedar Mountain, lost a calf just like you. But that ain't the strange part." McKinney drinks, wipes his mouth with the back of his hand. "Found it again, 2 days later, 5 miles north up on the Caprock." Morrison leans forward. "Dead?" "Dropped. From a considerable height, looked like. Body was, well, it was spread out some. But here's the thing. It had been partially eaten. Breast meat gone, hindquarters untouched, like something that knew which parts were best." The implications settle between them like dust. A creature smart enough to select the choicest portions, patient enough to carry, prey to a preferred feeding ground, powerful enough to lift 200 pounds of struggling animal 5 miles across rough country. "You see the bird?" Morrison asks. "No, but my boys found sign where it fed. Tracks in the dirt around the carcass, bird feet bigger than anything in any book I ever seen." McKinney reaches into his coat, pulls out a folded paper. "Drew them out, best I could." The sketch shows 3-toed prints pressed deep into creek mud. Each toe ends in a curved talon mark. Scale reference shows the prints measure nearly 18 inches from heel to longest claw. Morrison studies the drawing. No bird in North America leaves tracks this size. No bird anywhere, according to modern ornithology. "There's more," McKinney continues. "Found some feathers caught on a cedar tree nearby. Big ones, black as midnight. But they catch light strange, like there's metal in them somehow." He produces a paper envelope, shakes 3 feathers onto Morrison's desk. Each measures over a foot long, primary flight feathers built for power and lift. The black surface holds an oily iridescence that shifts from blue to green to deep purple as light moves across it. Morrison picks one up, tests its strength. The shaft resists bending, dense and solid. The barbs lock together perfectly, creating an impermeable surface. A feather engineered for high-altitude flight, built to slice through storm winds and lightning-charged air. "Keep them," McKinney says. "I got no use for proof of something I wish I'd never seen." Outside, thunder rumbles closer. The storm that began building at dawn now covers the eastern sky. Towering cumulus clouds shot through with electricity. Rain will arrive within the hour. "One more thing," McKinney adds. "Talked to old Miguel down at the trading post. He says his grandfather used to tell stories about birds like this, called them storm riders, said they only came down from the high places when the earth was out of balance." "Out of balance how?" "Drought, plague, war, times when the natural order got twisted up." Morrison considers this. The drought has lasted 14 months, longer than any in recorded memory. Cattle die by the hundreds, wells run dry, farmers abandon their land and head east toward water and hope. Perhaps the earth is out of balance. Perhaps something ancient has awakened to set it right. "You telling anyone else about this?" Morrison asks. "Hell no. Bad enough I gotta live with seeing it. Don't need the whole county thinking I've lost my mind." McKinney finishes his whiskey, stands to leave. "But Morrison, you watch yourself out here. That thing comes back, it might not settle for calves next time." After McKinney leaves, Morrison examines the feathers under lamplight. The iridescence seems deeper in artificial illumination, as if the feathers store light and reflect it back changed. He's handled eagle feathers, hawk feathers, owl feathers, nothing like these. At 9:30, Tom Whitman returns from Llano with a sea photographer named Edmund Harley. Harley operates a portrait studio on the town square, specializes in wedding pictures and funeral portraits. He's never photographed anything like what Morrison describes, but money talks louder than skepticism. $5 to come out, Harley says. 5 more if I actually get a picture of this bird of yours. Fair enough. Harley sets up his camera in the ranch house parlor, tests the flash powder, arranges his equipment. Professional preparation for an amateur hunt. He has no idea what he's signed up for. Rain begins to fall as they finish the arrangements, fat drops that strike the windows like thrown pebbles. The storm arrives with wind and lightning, turning the evening electric. Somewhere in that tempest, a creature the size of a small airplane rides the currents, hunting. Joseph Crow Feather arrives at the Broken Arrow 3 days after the rain stops. He comes on foot, as he always does, carrying a canvas pack and a walking stick carved from cedar. 72 years old, weathered by sun and time, he moves with the careful economy of someone who has walked thousands of miles across hard country. Morrison meets him at the gate. They've known each other for 15 years, ever since Crow Feather helped track rustlers who were using Indian paths to move stolen cattle into Mexico. A mutual respect has grown between them, built on honesty and shared understanding of the land. "You sent for me," Crow Feather says. "It's not a question." "Need to hear some old stories." Crow Feather nods. "About the storm birds." Morrison doesn't hide his surprise. "How did you—" "Word travels, even to old hermits on the mountain." Crow Feather shifts his pack. "Besides, I heard it myself 3 nights ago, flying through the storm, crying like a lost child." They walk toward the house, but Crow Feather stops at the corral, studies the sky. Storm clouds still build to the east, though today they seem less threatening than persistent. A wall of gray that follows the horizon but comes no closer. "My great-grandfather saw the last one," Crow Feather says, 1847 during the war with Mexico. "It came down from the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, following the storm lines south. Took a horse from a cavalry patrol near Santa Fe." "A whole horse?" "Mare and foal, carried them off like toys." Crow Feather sets down his pack, pulls out a rolled hide. "He drew pictures, made me memorize the stories before he died. The hide unfolds to reveal detailed paintings in mineral dyes and charcoal. Stylized but accurate, showing enormous birds with wingspans that dwarf the human figures below them. The birds' eyes are rendered as spirals, their talons drip blood, their wings trail lightning. "Thunder spirits," Crow Feather explains, "servants of the Sky Father sent to Earth when the balance breaks." Morrison studies the paintings. The creatures match what his men described, massive raptors with metallic feathers in proportions that defy natural law. "The balance," he asks, "between earth and sky, drought and rain, taking and giving." Crow Feather traces one of the painted figures with a gnarled finger. "When men take too much, the thunder spirits come to restore order." They settle on the porch, Morrison in his rocking chair, Crow Feather cross-legged on the boards. Between them, the hide paintings spread like an ancient manuscript. "How many were there?" Morrison asks. 7 in the old times, 7 spirits for 7 directions, north, south, east, west, above, below, and center, each one guardian of its domain." "And now?" "Now?" Crow Feather shrugs. "Maybe one, maybe none. The world changed when your people came. Iron horses, thunder sticks, cities that stretch to the horizon. No room left for the old spirits." Morrison pours coffee from a pot kept warm by the kitchen fire. Crow Feather accepts a cup gratefully. "But the drought brought this one back," Morrison says. "Drought is only part of it. Your machines dig too deep, take too much water. Your cattle eat grass down to the roots, leave nothing for the wild things. The earth grows thin under so much weight." Crow Feather sips his coffee, stares across the pasture where Morrison's remaining cattle graze. "The thunder spirit comes to thin the herd, restore balance. By stealing calves, by reminding men that they are not the only hunters." The old man's words carry the weight of generations, stories passed down through 70 winters, refined by repetition until only truth remains. Morrison has heard similar tales from other tribal elders, warnings about hubris, cautionary fables about the price of progress. He's never given them much credence, until now. "In the old stories," he asks, "could these birds be killed?" Crow Feather's expression darkens. "Killed, yes, but the cost—" He shakes his head. 7 years of drought for each spirit slain. 7 years of failed crops, dead cattle, children dying of thirst. Morrison thinks of the current drought, 14 months and counting. If the old beliefs hold true, someone has already paid a terrible price. "Has one been killed recently?" he asks. "Not by my people. We know the cost." Crow Feather's eyes find Morrison's. "But your people. They shoot first, ask questions later." The implication hangs between them like gun smoke. Somewhere, perhaps, a rancher or hunter has brought down one of these creatures. The drought could be retribution, cosmic justice measured in failed wells and dead streams. "How do we end it?" Morrison asks. "End the drought? Stop taking more than you need. Let the land rest. Return some of what was stolen." And the bird, Crowfeather rolls up the hide paintings, stores them carefully in his pack. The bird will do what it came to do. When balance returns, it will go back to the high places and sleep until the world needs thinning again. As if summoned by his words, thunder rumbles in the distance. The storm that has lurked on the horizon for 3 days begins to move closer, pushed by high-altitude winds. It comes with the storm, Crowfeather observes, rides the lightning down from the sky country. Morrison studies the approaching clouds. Somewhere in that tempest, a creature from mythology hunts with prehistoric patience. It has taken 1 calf from his herd, possibly more from neighboring ranches. According to legend, it won't stop until equilibrium returns. The question is, how many will die before balance is restored? The Thunderbird returns on July 18th, 3 days after the first taking. It comes with the storm, descending through lightning-charged clouds like a dark arrow aimed at Earth. The temperature drops 20 degrees in 10 minutes. Wind shrieks through the ranch buildings, rattling windows, stripping leaves from cottonwood trees. Daniel Carpenter sees it first. He's checking the cattle in the near pasture when the sky splits open. Rain falls in gray curtains, turning dust to mud, flooding dry creek beds with sudden torrents. The animals bunch together, seeking shelter that doesn't exist on the open range. Then, the shadow passes overhead. This time, Carpenter is ready. He raises his rifle, tracks the creature's flight path, waits for a clear shot. The Thunderbird wheels once around the herd, massive wings barely moving, riding updrafts with prehistoric grace. Its eyes find his. Even through driving rain, across 200 yards of storm-darkened air, those eyes burn with intelligence. Yellow as sulfur, ancient as stone. They study him with casual interest, the way a hawk might observe a field mouse. The creature is unafraid. Carpenter's finger tightens on the trigger. The Winchester holds 15 rounds of .44-40 ammunition, enough to bring down a grizzly bear. At this range, he cannot miss. But Joseph Crowfeather's words echo in his memory. 7 years of drought for each spirit slain. The Thunderbird completes its circle, selects a target, a red heifer standing apart from the main herd. It folds its wings and drops like a stone, talons extended, striking with the precision of a raptor that has hunted for eons. The heifer screams once, then rises. This time, Carpenter doesn't watch passively. He runs toward the ascending bird, rifle raised, tracking its climb through sheets of rain. The creature struggles more with this kill. The heifer is larger than the calf, fighting harder, making flight difficult. At 100 yards, Carpenter stops and aims. Wind buffets him, rain stings his eyes, but the target is clear. 1 shot through the body, another through the head. He can end this. Lightning flashes, illuminating the scene with stark clarity. The Thunderbird, wings spread wide, fighting for altitude. The terrified heifer dangling from its claws, the storm raging around them both like nature's own Colosseum. Carpenter's finger finds the trigger and stops. Not from fear of mythical curses or ancient warnings, not from doubt about his marksmanship or concern for the stolen animal. He stops because, in that moment of lightning-bright clarity, he sees something that changes everything. The creature is wounded. Dark blood streams from its left wing, mixing with rain, staining the air. The Thunderbird favors that side, compensating for damaged flight muscles. Its breathing sounds labored even over the storm's roar. This is not some unstoppable force of nature. It's an animal, hurt, perhaps dying, taking what it needs to survive. The realization transforms Hunter into witness. Carpenter lowers his rifle and watches as the Thunderbird disappears into the storm, bearing its burden toward distant mountains. Only when the creature vanishes completely does he notice Edmund Harley, standing beside the chuck wagon, camera ready, flash powder prepared. The photographer's finger hovers over the trigger mechanism. "Did you get it?" Carpenter shouts over the wind. Harley nods, excitement bright in his eyes. "Got 3 pictures, clear as daylight when the lightning flashed. The first photographs of a living Thunderbird, proof of legends made flesh, evidence that will change everything or convince no one." The photographs develop in Edmund Harley's makeshift darkroom 2 days later. Morrison waits outside the closed door, pacing the photographer's studio like an expectant father. Tom Whitman and Daniel Carpenter flank him, equally anxious. "Takes time," Harley calls through the door. Plates were exposed in difficult conditions. Lightning, rain, movement, any of those could ruin the image. Morrison has seen failed photographs before. Blurred images, double exposures, chemical accidents that turn potential evidence into meaningless smudges. If these plates don't develop clearly, the story dies here. "Almost finished," Harley announces. The door opens. Harley emerges holding 3 glass plates, their surfaces wet with developing solution. He sets them carefully on a viewing table, adjusts the lamp for better illumination. "See for yourself," he says. The first photograph shows the Thunderbird in flight, wings spread wide, the stolen heifer clearly visible in its talons. Lightning illuminates the scene from behind, creating a dramatic silhouette against storm clouds. Every detail stands out sharply: the creature's massive wingspan, its powerful build, the terrified animal it carries. The second captures the moment of takeoff, the Thunderbird's wings caught mid-stroke as it struggles for altitude. Its head turns toward the camera, one yellow eye visible in profile. The image possesses an almost supernatural quality, as if photographed in another world. The third shows only empty sky and distant mountains. The Thunderbird has vanished, leaving behind questions and impossible memories. "Mother of God," Whitman whispers. Morrison studies each plate carefully. The photographs prove nothing to skeptics. They could be faked, manipulated, trick shots created in a studio. But to men who witnessed the event, they provide validation, confirmation that what they saw was real. "I can make prints," Harley offers. "Send them to newspapers, scientific journals. This could make you famous." "No." Morrison's response is immediate, final. "These stay private for now." He's thought about this moment for 3 days, weighing options, considering consequences. Fame means attention. Attention means hunters, reporters, government officials. The broken arrow would become a circus, his cattle scattered, his peace destroyed. "But this is proof," Harley begins. "This is evidence," Morrison corrects. "Proof requires more than photographs." He pays Harley his fee, plus extra for discretion, and takes possession of the plates. Evidence for a case he's not ready to make. Proof of something the world isn't prepared to accept. That evening, Joseph Crow Feather returns to the ranch. He comes bearing news and an expression of deep concern. "Found where it roosts," he announces without preamble. Morrison pours whiskey, settles back to listen. Outside, the wind carries the scent of distant rain. More storms build on the horizon. "Devil's Backbone Ridge," Crow Feather continues. "Cave system about 60 feet up the cliff face, big enough for something that size." "You saw it?" "Saw a sign. Bones scattered below the entrance, fresh kills mixed with old ones, deer, antelope, cattle, some human artifacts too." Morrison's blood chills. "Human?" "Saddle leather, boot scraps, belt buckle with initials, JRS. Crow Feather meets Morrison's eyes. "Could be anyone. Could be from any time. But the leather looks fresh." The implications settle like lead in Morrison's stomach. If the Thunderbird has taken a human victim, everything changes. No longer a curious predator stealing cattle, but a man-killer that threatens every person in the county. "There's more," Crow Feather adds. "Found tracks leading away from the roosting site. Not the bird, something else. Boot prints, horse hooves. Someone else knows about this place." "How fresh." "Day old, maybe 2. Someone's been watching the cave, tracking the bird's movements." Morrison considers possibilities. Bounty hunters drawn by stories of livestock theft, government men investigating reports of an unknown species, trophy hunters seeking the ultimate prize, or worse, someone who knows the old stories, understands the cost of killing a Thunderbird and doesn't care about 7 years of drought. "We need to get up there," Morrison decides. "Tonight before whoever it is makes their move." Crow Feather shakes his head. "Already too late. Found something else at the cave site. Blood trail leading down from the entrance. The bird's been shot." "How bad?" "Bad enough. Wings damaged, maybe broken. It won't be flying much longer." The wounded Thunderbird suddenly becomes a different kind of threat. Unable to hunt efficiently from the air, it might turn to ground-based prey. Unable to reach high-altitude roosts, it might seek shelter closer to human habitation. Oh, cornered predator is always the most dangerous. "We ride at first light," as Morrison announces. Bring rifles, medical supplies, whatever we might need. Medical supplies? Whitman asks. For us or the bird, Morrison replies, depending on what we find up there. Devil's Backbone Ridge rises from the desert floor like a stone wall built by giants. Red sandstone cliffs stretch 300 feet toward empty sky, weathered into fantastic shapes by centuries of wind and rain. Hidden in that vertical maze, somewhere among the caves and ledges, a creature from legend fights for its life. Morrison's party reaches the ridge at dawn, himself, Carpenter, Whitman, and Joseph Crow Feather. They leave their horses at the base of the cliff and begin climbing, following game trails that wind between jumbled boulders. The ascent takes 2 hours. Crow Feather leads, his aged legs sure on treacherous footing, reading sign invisible to white eyes. Blood droplets on stone mark the Thunderbird's passage. Dark feathers caught on thorns show its route to the roosting cave. There, Crow Feather points. 60 feet above, a black opening pierces the cliff face. The cave mouth measures perhaps 15 feet across, tall enough to accommodate something with a 20-foot wingspan. Scattered bones litter the ledge below, evidence of years of successful hunting. How do we get up there? Carpenter asks. Crow Feather studies the rock face, traces potential routes with his eyes. There's a way. Won't be easy. They rope themselves together and begin the final climb. Morrison goes first, testing each handhold, securing the line for those who follow. His ranching days are behind him, but muscle memory remains. Hand over hand, boot toe to boot toe, inching up stone that crumbles at the slightest touch. The cave entrance looms larger as they approach. No sound emerges from within, no breathing, no movement, no sign of life. Either the Thunderbird has fled, or it waits in darkness, wounded and desperate. Morrison reaches the ledge first, pulls himself over the edge, helps the others up. The cave mouth yawns before them, black as a grave. The stench hits immediately, rotting meat, animal musk, something else harder to define. The smell of age, of wildness, of things that belong to another time. Stay behind me, Morrison whispers. He draws his pistol, strikes a match, peers into the darkness. The cave extends back farther than the matchlight reaches, but the entrance area shows clear signs of habitation. Bones scattered in neat piles, feathers trampled into the stone floor. And there, against the far wall, a shape too large to be anything natural. The Thunderbird lies on its side, one wing folded normally, the other extended at an unnatural angle. Blood pools beneath it, dark and thick. Its breathing comes in shallow gasps that echo off stone walls. But its eyes remain alert. Yellow lanterns that track every movement, calculate threat levels, prepare for final battle. It's dying, Whitman observes. Morrison steps closer, match held high. The creature's wounds are severe, bullet holes through the left wing, a gash along the breast where another shot grazed bone. Whoever shot it knew their business, aimed to cripple rather than kill instantly. Why would someone do this? Carpenter asks. Capture, Morrison realizes. Keep it alive for study, exhibition, profit. The Thunderbird tries to rise as he approaches, talons scraping stone, beak open in a soundless threat. But the effort exhausts it. The great head sinks back to the cave floor. Crow Feather pushes past them all, kneels beside the wounded creature. His hands move gently along its neck, checking pulse points, assessing damage. The Thunderbird doesn't resist his touch. Old warrior, the Comanche elder murmurs, you've flown your last storm. Can we help it? Morrison asks. Crow Feather shakes his head. Too much damage, wings shattered, lung punctured. Even if we could get it down from here, it would die within hours. The Thunderbird's eyes find Morrison's face. In their yellow depths he sees intelligence, pain, and something that might be resignation. This creature has lived for decades, perhaps centuries. It has seen the world change around it, watched its kind disappear one by one. Now it faces the end with dignity intact. What do we do? Carpenter whispers. Morrison considers options. They could attempt a rescue, try to haul the massive creature down from the ridge. They could leave it to die naturally, let nature take its course. Or they could end its suffering quickly, mercifully. The decision weighs on him like physical pain. Dan, he says quietly, your rifle. Carpenter hands over the Winchester. Morrison checks the action, ensures a round is chambered. The Thunderbird watches without fear, as if it understands what comes next. 7 years of drought, Crowfeather warns. The old curse is already in motion, Morrison finishes. Someone else shot it, someone else triggered whatever consequences come next. He raises the rifle, sights along the barrel. The Thunderbird's eye remains fixed on his, unblinking, unafraid, a creature that has ridden lightning and danced with storms, dying in a cave far from the sky it once claimed his home. "Forgive me," Morrison whispers. The shot echoes off stone walls like thunder. The drought breaks 3 days after the Thunderbird dies. Rain falls for 6 straight hours, turning dust to mud, filling wells, bringing green back to the world. Cattle lift their heads to drink from puddles. Farmers emerge from their houses to stand in the downpour, arms spread wide, faces turned toward heaven. For the first time in 14 months, the earth smells of hope. Morrison never reports what happened on Devil's Backbone Ridge. He tells no one about the photographs hidden in his safe, the feathers locked in his desk drawer, the memory of yellow eyes accepting death with dignity. The official story remains simple: cattle. Losses due to predation, possibly a large eagle or hawk. The neighboring ranchers stop losing livestock. Whatever wounded the Thunderbird either died of its injuries or moved on to other hunting grounds. Life returns to normal patterns: cattle grazing, cowboys riding fence, the endless cycle of drought and rain that defines existence in West Texas. But changes linger beneath the surface. Edmund Harley closes his photography studio and moves to San Antonio. He claims the equipment got damaged in a storm, but those who know him recognize something else in his eyes, the haunted look of a man who has seen too much. Joseph Crowfeather disappears back into the mountains, taking his stories and his painted hides with him. Some say he still lives in his cabin near Packsaddle Mountain. Others believe he walked into the desert one morning and never returned. The photographs remain in Morrison's safe, images of impossible moments that prove nothing to those who weren't there. Sometimes, late at night, he takes them out and studies them by lamplight, wondering if future generations will understand what they show. The Thunderbird's body vanished from the cave within days, scavenged by coyotes, scattered by wind and rain, returned to the elements that gave it birth. No bones remain on Devil's Backbone Ridge. No evidence survives except the memories of 4 men and the legend they choose not to share. Years pass. The story fades into local folklore, becomes one more tall tale told around campfires and in saloons. A yarn about cowboys and giant birds, mixed with drink and stretched by repetition until truth becomes indistinguishable from fiction. But sometimes, when storm clouds build in the eastern sky, when lightning walks the earth and thunder shakes the ground, old-timers still look up and wonder. Wonder if something moves in those clouds, something with wings like darkness and eyes like burning gold, something that remembers when the world was young and wild, things claimed dominion over earth and sky. The Thunderbird is gone, shot down by men who feared what they couldn't understand. But its legend persists, carried on wind and whispered in the space between lightning flash and thunder roll. Because some stories refuse to die. Some truths transcend the boundaries of proof and evidence. And somewhere, in storm clouds that stretch from horizon to horizon, the echo of great wings still beats against the sky.